strokes, I had open heart surgery, a hole in my heart the size of a silver dollar. It was many times where I couldn't even walk. Healing is just being fully connected and being fully present, because we all have the ability to heal ourselves. It's just how we go about it. It wasn't a drastic diet shift, but it was a mindset shift.
Welcome to the channel, Royal Ones. Today I'm doing a special interview with Camille Fanfair, and I thought it was important to bring her to y'all because of her particular life experiences and how she deals with energy and is able to overcome so many obstacles. I said she would be perfect for the royal family.
I'm a spiritual teacher, a Reiki master, and an energy worker. I started this journey many years ago, being someone that dealt with a lot of ailments, a lot of illness that just kind of came out of nowhere. And then I remember when I was younger, maybe I was about 10, 11, I used to have this beautiful woman, and she had two twins, and we used to play together, right? And then all of a sudden I heard that, their mother wasn't there anymore. I'm like, she just died. I'm like, what? And they was like, I asked what happened, being young. She was like, oh, she had lupus. And I'm like, lupus? Then I started thinking to myself, I didn't know what lupus was, and I would go around asking, like, what is lupus? And I said, what if I get to lupus? What if I develop lupus? And, and I had such a fear for this thing that I wasn't even aware of. So fast forward to my older years, I'm about 21, I started to get like little blemishes, I get a rash. I couldn't understand, I get rashes. I'm like, oh, all right. So I went to the allergist, and the allergist was like, okay, I need you to see another type of doctor. And I'm like, why? She said, because something's going on in your system, in your blood, and I can't diagnose you. I need you to go see someone else. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went to one of a rheumatologist. She was supposed to be one of the best rheumatologists that they had out. But of course, being a young black woman, I think for me, I was kind of overlooked, right? So she was like, oh, it's probably just nothing. Give it a couple of months.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So I just took it, it was nothing. And I was getting fatigue. My skin was constantly breaking out. Couldn't be in the sun too long. I noticed how I would feel. And then I went back, and it was like, oh, when they did the blood work again, oh yeah, you have lupus. Got some medication, just kind of left it. But it was never to a point where I was getting like flares, right? So fast forward, working corporate America, constantly going into work, dealing with a bunch of stress coming from different directions. I noticed that my energy continued to go down. And, then I was directed by the spirit that I need to not work, that it was time for me to make a change. I need to work for myself. So I kind of listened to that message, not knowing that things would just start to it was just already ramped up, and the disease was already starting to really work in my body.
And when you say the disease, you mean lupus?
Lupus, yes, lupus. It was, for me, lupus wasn't something that was talked about, not in the black community. You hear that, people have lupus, but no one really knows what lupus is, right? So just constantly doing research. I'm very fortunate, my husband is he researches everything. So I just knew he was always on top of it. The medication that's needed, the way that I need to eat, the way I need to cleanse my body. But then I was at a point where I needed to really heal myself internally, and finding out what my triggers was. And stress was a big trigger of lupus.
And what exactly, and from all of us, our own understanding, because I think lupus is an autoimmune disease.
It is an autoimmune disease that can affect you in so many different ways, right? So it's when your body literally fights against, cells fight against each other, right? So it can affect your liver, it can affect your heart, it can affect your muscles, your joints. It's just like your body. It's like, okay, you think it's a good thing that's happening, but your body's like, no, this is bad. So it just automatically, you just constant fight within your body. And again, with lupus, it shows itself to different people in different ways. Whether, some people get blemishes on their face. Some people, it just completely attacks their kidneys, their heart. For me, it would show up in just severe joint pains. It was many times where I couldn't even walk. Like I was like really bedridden for moments because it was so severe. But it was at my lowest state, and just praying and just asking for the guidance and the things that was needed. And I was like, I'm dedicating my time to just doing meditation. And it was a point where my doctor was like, oh, we need to do this bone marrow surgery, and just to kind of figure out. And I'm like, whoa, I'm already in pain, so we're not going, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm to the stage, I'm in a lot of pain. Why would you want to, give me more pain? So I told her, I said, let me figure it out, right? Let me take some time and to really meditate and get myself together and see what I need to do for my wellness. And then if I'll give me a month, right? And if in a month it doesn't work, I'm gonna come back to you. You can do whatever. And within that month, I just took time to really heal, meditating, connected with spirit. I spent a lot of time praying, using my crystals, and using Reiki to really heal myself. And within a month, I went back. And my doctor was like, what happened? Like, what magic did you work? But it's really taking time to connect.
So you mentioned spirit several times and listen. So when you said you listen to your spirit, what is that like? What is that exactly, listening to the spirit? So,
people connect with spirit, right, in different ways. So some people might say your intuition, how you perceive things, right? The voice within, you can consider that spirit. For me, being a priestess and who I am, I have ways in which I divine and connect with spirit. Whether, it's using cowrie shells, whether it's using different tools to really connect and find out what is needed. So I ask questions. So people get the spirit talks in different ways, right? Some people use spirit, nature is spirit, seeing different things coming to you. Whether it's watching how leaves fall, or you're praying for a sign, how it shows itself.
Because that's important, because if you were able to get the information, get the feeling, the vibe, the communication from spirit, and you had that kind of transformation, that kind of turnaround in 30 days, I think it's important for all of us, especially me, to understand that, how to build that connection with spirit, so I can be guided, so we all can be guided. And
connection with spirit is something that it's an individual process, right? It's you kind of taking the time out to whatever you believe in, right? So some people say God, some people say universe, some people say source, but really connecting with that and spending your time developing yourself. So for me, it was like really going internally and just like, all right, this is what I need. This is how I do it. And rituals is like a big thing, right? Taking the time out to make it into a ritual. So whether it's me getting up 5 o'clock every morning to sit and to meditate, or just to be still and to listen if I receive any messages, that's the ritual that I choose to do, right? But there's different ways that you can create your own rituals for your own wellness and your own well-being.
That's super dope. And it's exciting to be able to know that we have the capacity to be able to connect to ourselves in a clear way, where we can receive the information we need, especially in times where things seem to be difficult.
Right.
I think that those are the things we all look for, especially now. A lot of people are going through a lot of different challenges now, and they may not be getting the answers from, the allopathic doctor.
Right.
I think that allopathic doctors serve a purpose,
right?
And I don't think it should be thrown out.
Right.
But I do think it's important that we actually tune into ourselves and start to take certain actions, to take control of our own destiny. So if you also listen to spirit, what were some of the physical attributes that you did? Like what you ate, what you consumed?
Well, a lot of what I did was like just using a lot of plants, right? Herbs, and using different where we say bush medicine, right? Using different things, drink a lot of tea, whether it's using ginger or garlic in something, you know, there's so many different ways in which we can help to like change the way our body works, right? Even the energy, everything is energy. We're all made up of energy. So it's to be able to kind of shift the energy within your body to make things in alignment, to bring things to harmony. So whether it's just taking some time and having a smoothie in the morning, or say, okay, you know what, today is a day that I'm going to just fast. I'm not going to really consume meat, or I'm just going to just do some water and some fruits, just kind of set aside. Everyone have to know what works for them, right? You know, because I can say, there's a lot of people that say, oh, you know, I'm totally vegan. I'm not totally vegan, but you know, I know a lot of people that's that they're totally vegan and that works for them. Some people's body's not made up that way, right? So it's to kind of find out what actually works for you. So for me, it was just like fruits and like I don't eat much, so it's a lot of like small portions of things throughout the day, you know, being consistent in the things I do, trying to avoid grease, especially like with lupus. There are certain foods that you just need to stay, you know, we have to stay away from, right? Like
what?
Like tomato. There's things called nightshades. So like tomatoes is something that we can't have. Like, so I don't have the ketchup and things like that. Things you're supposed to avoid. Of course, sometimes you cheat, right? And I might take a little, but these are things that I know it doesn't work well with my body. No soy products at all. It's something that our body just doesn't digest properly, and it can cause like an adverse. No dairy. So if I have to do like almond milk. So just kind of finding out what works for you.
So there was no real drastic diet shift for you. It wasn't drastic.
No, it wasn't a drastic diet shift, but it was a mindset shift. That's what it was. It's just shifting and like avoiding stress and things of that nature. You know, because we live in a world that's full of stress, and stress is what really helps to break our bodies down. Like they say, stress is the silent killer. It's truth, right? It's, you know, stress can cause strokes and stuff like that. And I had 3 strokes in my life.
3?
3, yeah. So I had 3 strokes. I had open heart surgery. These are just things, challenges that I face, and I was able to overcome. Right.
So, do you think the strokes, the having open heart surgery, do you think it had to do with the lupus? What caused these things, do you think? So
apparently I had a hole in my heart the size of a silver dollar.
Wow.
Didn't know about this until I had my 3rd child. After having my 3rd son, who is now 19, I got really sick, like a week after having him. I basically just felt like kind of almost like lifeless, right? And I'm like, something's going on. And I remember holding him and going to put him back in, and like I felt jittery. And I remember putting him down. I was just like shaking. I was like, okay, something's going on. And then we went, and it was like, oh, it's probably from having him or something like that. And then they realized I had a stroke.
Wow.
Yeah. Like a couple of days later, they realized I had a stroke, and going and doing, just trying to figure out what was going on in my body. Don't do this, don't do that. I was there for like a guinea pig for like 2 weeks. They couldn't figure it out, and it was like, oh, you have some rare Indian disease. Not until they did the test where they put the microscope through my throat, and they were able to see the back of my heart and realize that I had a hole in the back of my heart. That was that side, which attributed to the stroke. But with that being said, I could have had lupus all that time and it wasn't aware, right? They was like, it was something, because a lot of times it goes undiagnosed, like people just don't know. So it could have been the stem of it.
So you actually found out about the lupus after all of those?
Yes, after.
Wow.
I found out after my first stroke. By the time I had the 2nd stroke, I already knew I had lupus.
Wow, that's amazing that you have to go through so many challenges even to find out something like that. Yeah. Especially with the hole in the heart. How does something like that happen? You know?
Listen, and that's the thing. They said you had signs, right? So I remember being younger because I was really, really skinny, but my foot used to swell. And I used to go to the doctor and never figured out. They didn't figure out. Okay, I do exams. That was one thing that they said it could have. That was a sign that something was wrong with my heart. And I had I used to have like an extra palpitation in my heart, but they never checked to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, these kind of things. I've heard a lot of people say they had different issues and the doctor never really was able to help them in any way until it became like full blown.
Right.
And these are the things that alerted me, to make sure I take care of myself on 100%.
Yeah, because it's scary, right? Like in a moment you could have a child, and I could actually die. And then the doctor told me that, right? Because he was coming. And again, with my son, it was like a whole spiritual episode before that, right? So before I even think, I was getting dreams, like something was a little off, right? Something was going on. People had different dreams, and we had some spiritual work to be done before I actually gave birth to him. But right before I went in the hospital, and they was like, "Oh, you have no water." I'm like, "What?" Like, you have no water? I'm like, "Where did the water go?" And they was like, "Okay, we're gonna have to bring you in. We're gonna have to induce labor." So when I started to induce, they said his heart rate started to drop, and it was like, "Okay, we can't continue. We're gonna have to give you a C-section." The doctor said if I would have had him naturally, I probably would have died.
Wow.
Yeah, during the process. But all of that happened for a reason, because that's how it had to happen, right?
Nah. That's like amazing. And the fact that you didn't know that's what was going on with your system and so many things started to trigger it, it was kind of difficult to see the root cause of things. Right. And they even say it's a miracle that I had 2 other children naturally. Wow.
And nothing ever occurred, because a hole in your heart that side just don't, it's there all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like, it's amazing that you had 2 natural childbirths without.
So what is that? Like, once you get a hole in your heart, does it fix itself? Does it stay?
No, it stays until you do something to get it fixed. So I had it was an atrial septic defect, and I had to have it repaired. So I had surgery within 2 months after that, open heart surgery.
And then you were just straight after that.
Yeah, I was straight. I was straight. I'm still straight. Yeah, so I had to have open heart surgery.
No.
And that repaired. For a while, there was no lifting anything more than 5 pounds, 10 pounds. So like that whole process, I couldn't really hold my son, because I couldn't have any type of weight. Yeah, because
having all of these different things happen to you, was that the transition for you to get into spirituality, or was you already in the mix?
No, I was already into spirituality from a very young age. My mother, so my parents are from Trinidad. My mother's from Trinidad, my father's from Tobago.
Had to get that correct.
Yes, because people fight you for that. People fight you for that. So my mother was always just called Spiritual Baptist, which is a spiritual way that you tap into different types of spirituality. It's like a mix up all together, right? So
wait, you gotta break it down a little bit more, because I never heard of Spiritual Baptist.
Oh yeah, so it's from Trinidad. So Spiritual Baptist is a line of spiritual worship in which you have different types of religion. It's Christianity, right? They believe in Jesus and the Bible and stuff like that, but there are attributes of like Hinduism. So they might have Lakshmi, or the different Hindu goddesses in between there. They have Buddhism in it. They have so it's a mix. And of course they have African tradition in it as well. So you might take like a certain tribe from here. So in a service, like you can have people going into manifestation, you'll see an Indian deity man be present.
Wait, we're gonna have to
rewind
that a little bit, because you said during ceremonies.
Yeah, in ceremonies, like you'll see someone, we call it going into manifestation, right? So someone is calling, you see that they're, I don't like using the word possessed, but like they like a spirit is on them, right?
Okay.
And
like the Holy Ghost.
Like the Holy Ghost. Let me say, everybody knows the Holy Ghost.
Exactly.
Yes, the Holy Ghost. So somebody got the Holy Ghost, right? And they could be talking in Chinese, or they could be bringing different medicines that's from the Chinese, like, oh, maybe you should take this and stuff like that. Or it can be Indian, and you'll see them there's some Indian vessels that's used, like a lota or a taria that's used for different types of worship and stuff. Like people may drink out of it, or they pour liquids in it, or they have candles in it. They may use that. So it's yes.
That's pretty dope. And that's what you grew. That's how you grew up?
I grew. Yes. So I grew. My mother was always like real. I have pictures like the age of 3. It's called something called a pilgrimage, where different churches come together and they go in the wilderness and they kind of have service, right? And they have ceremonies in the wilderness. And I have like pictures of me going with my mother at that time. So I've always been like really into spirituality.
So the issues that happened with you, were they more of a catalyst to get into it?
That's a good question. I think by the time the issue started happening, I already moved away from my mother's church, Spiritual Baptist, and I was already more into the Orisha side, right? So in Trinidad, they'll say Spiritual Baptist, or you'll hear people say Shango Baptist, which Shango is like Orisha deity, so people associate that. So I was more on, people say, the Shango Baptist side. So at that point, being fully coming into myself, things started to kind of go crazy. But for me, it was like moving me more to my path of where I really needed to follow and do the things that I needed for my own wellness.
And what is those paths?
What is the path?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a spiritual teacher, right? So a lot of the time that I have my own temple. So I'll say that. At one point in my life that we were in the temple, but it was time for us to grow and to move out, and things started happening to kind of like, hey, you don't need to be here. You need to be, it's time for you to shift, because you got to grow into your own, right? So a lot of time I've struggled with that internally, because I used to tell my husband when I was younger, I'm like, listen, all that stuff is you. That's not my life. Right, you stay over there, you be the leader, you got the spiritual children and all the different people that follow you. That's not what I'm about. I just want to, do what I need to do, go out if I need to party, or if I need to, whatever I need to do, like that's just me. And a lot of, when I give the spirit whatever they need, and I'm coming back into doing what I want to do, right? And they was like, no. So this is not what this is your life. He has his things he needs to do, and then you have the things that you need to do, and y'all just have to do things that you need to do together. So
you said temple. So
yes,
when you said you was in a temple, is this like a church?
Yes, instead of saying church, we say temple, right? In Yoruba we say ile, like it's a gathering of people. So I have a house where people come and then they worship.
Okay, so you was in a temple.
I was in a church before, and from that church I ended up moving away, and we created our own temple.
Oh, so you have your own thing now.
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yes, we have our own. We have our own temple in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. That's really cool.
We probably have about let's say about 40 active members. Yeah.
Okay, so you said you go towards the Orisha side.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that means you're a priestess of some sort, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Explain that.
So I am a priestess, right? So I'm a priestess of Oshun. I'm an Ifa, meaning I am a priest of Ifa as well. And a priest of Egbe. So yes, that's a part of who I am, meaning that I was initiated into knowing the different things concerning the various Orishas, right? So initiation is the spiritual process when you go to really connect with your guardian Orisha, or the Orisha that is sent to help you and direct you on your journey in this life. So I am a priest.
So an Orisha is something like we would say an angel or like that?
I mean that's a good way to put it, right?
Yeah.
So it is a divine force of God, right? So we say emissaries, like messengers of God that are sent here to help you in other ways. Like people have angels, right? Like they say Saint Michael is an angel, and he's here to defend, right? So in the Orisha, we have Ogun that is here to defend, Ogun that is here to and clear, like away things that is not necessary for our life. So yeah, that's a good way to say angels.
Yeah, because
I mean, for people to get the comparison, right? It's different for people to get the comparison. You could say angels, some people say God and goddesses, and so you can just understand.
That's cool. So you've been doing this for how long? Having your own temple?
Having my own temple now is 21 years.
Wow.
I've been in this tradition about 35 years. Yeah, about 35.
Wow, that's a decent amount of time.
Yes.
So what was there specific initiations you had to go through to become a priest?
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm a priest of normally we don't talk too much about the process, but so
you could just be very vague.
So in each initiation there's a series of processes that you go through. It may start from 3 days to 7 days or 10, depending on the particular orishas that you have. And even for me, before I was even initiated to a particular orisha, Oya, which is people say the goddess of the wind, the winds of change and stuff in her life. She was a orisha that used to manifest on me from the age of 13. Right. So before I even really knew myself, Oya was a manifestation that used to come on me from that age, 13. So so a lot of people when you have a various orisha coming on you at that age, like you're a priest of that orisha once that orisha starts to manifest on you at that early age for me.
13. That's a magical number. Right? Very significant number.
Yeah, 13 is when she started manifesting on me. And then, through being a part of the Spiritual Baptist, you go through different rites and rituals that kind of help you in that process, right? To help you to come into alignment of who you are and who you were destined to be. It's a lot. So
when you were going through this process, how did your spiritual connections help balance and guide you through that?
When you go into the process as far as
all of the different health issues you was going through, because I find that when we're going through these different health issues, we usually are challenged what we believe and if we're being helped, is this real?
Right. I mean, and that's a really great question, because a lot of times, like I hear people say it all the time, especially spiritualists, right? When you in your lowest state, that's the time you feel like you can't pray. It's the time you really have to try to muster up. So sometimes I find myself, I would just like have conversations with God, like, like why, try to, a lot of times when you're in that space, you ask yourself like, why? Yeah. Why am I suffering? What did I do? Like, and that was constant questions I would ask myself, like, what did I do to deserve this? Did I do something in my past? Is it something that I need to really, rectify? And then, a lot of the times I came to understand, like, someone has to go through it, somebody else could connect with the story, right? So I feel like I've been through all these challenges, so I can now help other people that are in this know how they can come out of it, right? So that's why I take like the work that I do so seriously, because I know the challenges. I know what it is to be in bed and feel like you can't move. I know what it is to have a stroke and for a couple of minutes I can't even know myself. I can't even communicate how I feel. Like you're trying, but you're not. So I'm very passionate about the type of work that I do because of that. And Spirit has always been my guiding force. Just the energy, just my connection with God, and just taking time to really, say when we say Ola Zumare, God, just what is it that I need from my life? How is it? And like even taking time to just really make promises, like if in that moment I made time, if I can come out of this, I'll make sure to help other people to know how they can live to their highest self or be their best potential, or just kind of tap in, because we all have the ability to heal ourselves. It's just how we go about it, right? We all have that type of energy that we really need to tap into to be able to show that we can really come out of this.
A lot of information. I can see a lot of this helping a lot of people, especially that's going through different issues,
Right.
especially with not really understanding their version of spirituality and knowing that there's many different versions.
Right.
And that a lot of it is still connected to, a place of love, a place of compassion, and whatever you feel attracted to in a loving manner is something that would probably be a spearhead for you to jump into to be able to help heal yourself.
Right.
Especially when you're talking about all the different challenges that you was going through and how that actually helped set you up for who you are today.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, what would you want to say to people in terms of health, spirituality, and what that means to you and how it's connected?
So I think everything is connected, right? Just the energy of us as individuals, and as you said about love, like love is one of the highest vibrations, the highest frequencies, and with you being a spiritualist or trying to come into your spirituality, you really have to connect to something that you love, right? What resonates with you, whether it's plant medicine or whether it's natural healing energy or just being in the wilderness. Some people find their healing by going to the waters and just sitting down and just taking in that energy, right? That can be healing. So it's really finding what works for you. For me being who I am, I came into it out of a want, a need for my wellness, right? Really connecting with and finding out what God wanted me to be, how I needed to show up in the world. So a lot of my meditation would be on that. Who am I meant to be? Who I need to be? How can I be a vessel for good, right? A vessel for change, and knowing that one of my reasons for being in this world is to help to mend and to help to heal. So whether it's connecting people with their spirituality or helping to bring some type of enlightenment, because the way in which our body works, whether it's your chakra system, just looking at the different energy centers in the body, each one is connected to a purpose in this world, right? So whether it's just taking your root, for example, being grounded and connected to being here in this world, that's a way of helping someone to heal just by tapping into your energy system. So for me, healing is just being fully connected and being fully present, whether it's calling on God, whether it's bringing the different aspects together as one. That's for healing.
Now that makes sense, and it's definitely refreshing. And I'm thinking about the people who are actually going through a lot of health challenges right now. How did the allopathic aspect of it help you in conjunction with the spiritual aspect?
Also, using medicine, right? So I never tell people, like, if doctors give you medicine, I think everything works together, right?
Yeah.
Because God made doctors for a reason.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? So
I'm always trying to tell people.
Yeah, people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to the spiritualist. No, go to your doctor. Right? So I've had direction, like spirit was like, oh, yeah, you take your medicine, but do this as well, right?
Yeah.
So everything works together. So me going and getting medicine and then knowing, okay, I need to do a detox every couple of days, right? Everything works together, right? I need to take time to meditate, to just be centered and be present and know how to block out the outside noise. Everything works together. So we need the doctors, we need this, but we also need the natural things, whether it's using aromatherapy and just having the scent, right? Because you know that the scents help to heal you internally. It helps to trigger things in your brain, like, oh, that smells good. That makes me feel good, right? So it's just being able to have all these things working together as one.
That is extremely important and is extremely valuable, because I find a lot of people always have conflict with going a natural way versus an allopathic way. And I always said, look, they both are there for a reason.
Right.
And you have to utilize both and make sure that whatever you're doing, that you're doing the research
Right.
along with your spiritual intuition.
Right.
Right? Because I just hear people, and I'm just listening to the spirit. I'm like, look, you can listen to spirit,
Right.
but also do the research to find out what is really out
right.
there and what you need to do, right?
Right. And I think that is important. Listen to your spirit, but you listen to your spirit, but you have to trust yourself too. And the people that know, right? There's people that have knowledge. So just make sure you consult with the right people.
Yeah.
Just do your research, right? Just don't listen, because I can just listen to somebody, oh, don't do that. Like, I was blessed that the doctor that I eventually came to, my rheumatologist, she told me, she was like, listen, I can give you a bunch of medicine because as a doctor, that's what I was taught to do. But I believe in energy healing. I believe in this. My doctor actually told me that. When I found the doctor that was meant for me, and I feel that she was divinely led to. I was divinely led to her, and she told me, you need to do meditation. You need to stay away from this, but you need to take time to do meditation. You need to do energy work. And she really was behind me. So when I told her I trained, Reiki, she was like, great, continue. Use Reiki every day to heal yourself. And that's just, now I see her like once every 2 years.
That's a blessing.
Right.
Because that's what I'm always looking for in my doctor specifically. I look for allopathic and a holistic doctor.
Right.
If I can find both, I'm just extremely blessed. I had one and he retired. I was extremely upset at him. I'm upset that you're retiring,
right.
Because I didn't have that kind of faith in people like that.
Right.
Because he knew both, and throughout the years, I built a trust with him, and I knew he had the best interest for me at heart. It wasn't just the numbers thing.
Right.
You got 15 minutes and then you're gone. You would sit there and talk to me for hours sometimes.
Right, and I think that's very, very important. I was blessed to have two doctors like that in my life. And one, when she came out the system, I had to find her wherever year. She was like, and I found her. She was like, listen, you don't need to go to. I'm a blood specialist. She said, your blood is good. Like, you don't need to come to me no more.
Yeah.
But just finding that one. And I notice anytime I'm in a room and I'm talking to women with lupus, and then I hear their stories and I'll hear how they talk, and I'm like, is your doctor so and so? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, we had the same because of the things that I hear that they say, right?
So right now, you are fantastic. You're good. So because still I had to bring it back a little bit because it crossed my mind. Like, I know very little about lupus. I knew the baseline. And so this is something that's ongoing, and you always have to be mindful of pretty much what you're consuming and just everything around you.
Yeah, I have to be mindful of not being in the sun too much, because the sun could be a trigger. The sun could be a trigger. I have to be mindful of like different temperatures, and it's weird because it depends on the person of itself, right? So like for me, sun, I can't be in direct sun, or I have to have on sunblock because I'll start to get like rashes, help to kind of speed things. It's
definitely ongoing.
Yeah, and it's just figuring out, like, I know don't have dairy, don't eat too much ice cream, don't do this. And
what? Ice cream? How could you do
right, so.
Even vegan ice cream?
Yeah, not too much sugar. So there's so many different things that I have to be aware of, and still take my medicine and still do my detoxes. And I'm grateful that I'm only on 2 medications, because being that I did have 3 strokes in my life, I do have to take blood thinners. So I'm like very mindful. But then again, I know like I can take beet juice and other things to help to kind of thin my blood. So I stay on top of the other things that I need to do as well.
Yeah. So it's a process.
It is a total process.
Yeah.
It's a total process. But I can't be a wellness professional and talk about wellness and I'm not well. So I got to stay on top of what I need to do, right? Like just like a healer that's always sick. How does that work, right? Like I don't want a healer that's always sick.
Like I'm coughing a little bit too much.
Right. So I have to be mindful. And even when I feel like I'm stepping over, I'm like, okay, Camille, you bring it back. Like you're doing something wrong. What's going on wrong? Like if I just notice something going on, if I feel like a little ache, and I was like, oh, something I know is stress. So, because you come in tune with your body. So even my wrist start hurting. I'm like, oh, my wrist. Oh, what's really like? What am I worrying about? What's going on? Right? Like I feel little pains. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm going to Nigeria, so I'm a little nervous. That's how I feel. Like, So I kind of know, like, all right, relax. You got this under control. Just about having things under control.
And being conscious of the little tweaks, of the little things.
Listen, if my toe hurt too much, I'd be like, listen, I told my son, hey, my toe is hurting now. Let's bring me aware that my toe is hurting me. And like, I'm so in tune with my body. If I had a slight headache, I know it's one day, okay. Second day, okay. Yeah. Now I gotta kind of mentally prepare what is going on and just take time and meditate or use my different aromatherapies and like, okay, I need to see what's going on in my body. So, just being connected to.
I appreciate this conversation.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Definitely. Is there any social media handles, any thing you want to let people know where you're at?
Okay, so for social media, I am on Essence of Ashe. That is ESSENCE OFASE. Essence of Ashe. That is for Instagram and Facebook as well. And you can always go to my website, which is www.essenceofashe.com. And you can find me there.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Camille. It was a pleasure.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you again for having me.
All right. Peace out, y'all.